Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another exciting podcast interview. On today's show, I have Lindsay Ciavattone. She is the Director of Dealer Relations at Cargurus, and I can't wait to get caught up with all the great things that are going on at Cargurus. So, Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
Lindsay, before we get into what's going on at Cargurus, you came from the retail side of the business. Can we get a little background of what your experience was and what brought you to Cargurus?
Of course, Brian. Yes, it's a little scary to say, but I have been in the automotive industry now on the retail side of the business for the last 20 years or so, and held multiple positions through the variable side of the dealership. And I'm really happy to say that I've brought all of that experience into Cargurus on our digital retail commercialization team, and utilize really that background and sort of wear this, dealer advocate hat every day while I'm at work, advocating for the dealer experience, sharing detail about how our products work inside of our stores, with the dealers actually using them, and helping our product team get a greater connection with our dealers throughout product development and just gathering feedback. So really leaning heavily into that prior experience and being able to say, hey, I've done that. I know what you're feeling when I'm working with dealers throughout the country. And it's really exciting to be able to serve in that way every day at Cargurus.
Well, that's great. I do know that dealers appreciate folks from retail that come in, reach in, try to help them. And Cargurus has been developing a number of products and also investing in insights to help dealers better understand the changing environment of today's car shopper at a very high level. Lindsay, you see millions of people come to Cargurus each month, exploring. Affordability is becoming a little bit more challenging. Used car prices are high, interest rates are higher, but dealers are still in need to connect with today's shopper. How is Cargurus at a very high level, before we jump into products, helping dealers connect with local car shoppers?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. We have I think we've invested a lot more into the type of data that we're sharing back to dealers. So earlier this year, we actually had very strategic conversations between our teams and some of the dealers we met with to specifically talk about their need for data, what kind of information they're looking for, how we can support their pricing strategy, and help them understand where their consumers and where their shoppers are coming from. One of the things that we've noticed this year especially is that the lead volume coming in is, of course, this is not a surprise, much more geared toward good and great deals than they have been in the past. So that segment of lead volume is increased significantly and reduced in other areas. But the combination of, talking to dealers and having those really in-depth conversations and then pulling very specific data for them and feeding that back has, I think, really significantly impacted our ability to support dealers in achieving their goals and sales conversion.
Lindsay, one of the things that has proven out is that one of the reasons why consumers are maybe first to find a car that they like, but price discovery has been so important for Cargurus and other marketplaces, where maybe prices on dealer websites are call, or, get today's price or other things. But more consumers than ever are embracing what we would call digital retailing tools. For them, it's just, hey, what am I going to pay for this car tool? Let's talk about the evolution of Digital Deal, and how are you seeing the uptake from consumers and dealers? Like, what percentage of the listings have been upgraded with Digital Deal, and what does that do to, I hate to use the word lead quality, but that's how dealers measure it. What's the impact on quality, conversion, and helping dealers sell more cars online?
That's a multi-part question, Brian, but I love it. Can you imagine if we went to Amazon and we clicked on whatever it is that we're looking for and it said call for price? I mean, that would just be nuts, right? So
it would be nuts, and there's only one there's only one place where that happens. Even on $500,000, $1 million, $5 million homes, Zillow or Realtor.com show the price. So we're still caught in a little bit of this manufacturer gaming and not wanting to be priced out of the market, yet willing to be priced out of the market. How is the Digital Deal bridging that gap?
That's exactly right. So consumers value transparency. That is a huge element to building trust and actually getting that customer, either physically in your dealership or transacting with you remotely. And so I think one of the parts of your question, we have now over 200,000 listings that are enabled with Digital Deal on the Cargurus site. And it's allowing the consumer not only to see the price that's in front of them, but actually configure a structure for a deal, figure out the affordability, right? They can go in and understand, does this meet my threshold of a monthly payment? How much am I going to have to put down to get to where I want to be? If I have a trade-in, what does that do to that deal and that affordability? And then, earlier we mentioned, right, the financing is just so important for consumers right now with the market conditions that exist today. It's extremely challenging. And they want to know when they walk into that dealership, like, what is it going to look like for them? So they're not wasting their time. And that is, so important to people, transparency and the value of their time. And those two things combined, Digital Deal is really helping the consumer. And not only that, it's feeding back to the dealer, right? Dealers right now, I've never seen more of a challenge obtaining the right talent, keeping the right talent. And so when you think about the amount of information that you can get in a Digital Deal super lead, cutting down the amount of time that you have to spend with that consumer to discover the information in the first place, and really just fast tracking to the most important part of the conversation.
One of the things that I was thinking about is just the way I look at things. If I go into a coffee shop and see a long line, I'm out. When I think of shopping at a retail store and I walk in, like sometimes I've gone into Zara, and it's like 20 people deep. I'm like, they're not making this process easy. You go into another store and there's something about the belief that if you go into certain stores, you're going to get in and out quick, like Best Buy. I always feel I can get in and out quick. What is this element of the human mind that dealers who make it easy for consumers to buy a car get more business? What would you say about that?
That is so true. We did a research study, I think it was late last year. And one of the things that we found was that the ease of process is the number one factor to a consumer walking away and believing that they got a great deal. It's not price. It is the ease of process. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the process was incredibly fast or, unbelievably simplified, because it is a perception. So that's challenging, right? To put your finger on, what is this customer going to perceive as easy for them? But ease of process being the number one thing that you could give to your consumer to make them walk out of your dealership and tell all of their friends and family how amazing and what great of a deal that they got at your dealership. And I think that piece is the number one thing that dealers should be working on right now. And it's really about how you're bringing together the experience that your shopper gets online and the experience that they have inside your store or remotely with your store once they begin contacting you.
Yeah, it makes so much sense as we put it in perspective of ourselves, and sometimes we get lost in the reason why. And the reason why is we would want it that way ourselves. So let's talk about the digital deal solution from a technical standpoint. Dealers don't need another tool to learn and definitely want contractable deals. Tell me about your integrations with the e-contracting players, whether it's Route One or Dealer Track. What are we doing to make sure that the numbers quoted, the deals approved or forwarded to the dealer, can be executed?
Yeah, we actually, funny enough, in May, we celebrated Digital Deal's first birthday. So that was super exciting. And I will say that the integration piece of Digital Deal is extremely important, especially when I'm, going into dealers and working with them, seeing it firsthand. So to your point, Digital Deal super leads will drop into their CRM. If a consumer engages in financing, that application will drop directly into Dealer Track or Route One, whichever one that dealer is using. And so all of the information that they need is right there at their fingertips. They're not opening a new system. They don't have to go somewhere else to find it. And they have the ability to rehash that deal, work with it as it is, confirm the information with the consumer. But all of it is there for them to finalize directly. And it's extremely powerful being able to serve all that information up at one time to the dealer. What I would like to see, and I think there are more dealers starting to do this, is actually enabling their team and empowering them to work in a finance first way with that consumer, especially for those submitting those actual hard pull applications. And to just, pick that phone up immediately and say, thank you so much. I got all of this information from you. Here's the next steps. This is what it looks like. And just really cutting to the chase, because that is your lowest funnel, highest quality, most purchase intent, buyer out there. And so also prioritizing those leads is so important.
That's for sure. And that comes back down to process. You see dealers getting hundreds of leads a month, especially larger markets and stores. What tools is Cargurus? What coaching strategies? Things change. It used to be, 5 phone calls day one email a day, every day until, they cry uncle. What are some of the ways in which Cargurus can help dealers do a better job handling these opportunities get generated through the platform?
So the Digital Deal Super Lead drops right into the CRM. There is a deal summary attached to that. But even before you get to that step, we have provided subsources in the lead to the dealer. And those subsources indicate what type of activity the consumer completed online. So there are some that's like the consumer just requested that they want an appointment at the dealership. Or there's a type that says, hey, this is a Digital Deal lead that includes a trade-in. And so ensuring that those subsources are populating inside the CRM right on the work plan screen is extremely important. One of the things that I see happening often is that all of the Cargurus leads will just sort of dump into the Cargurus bucket and look the same. And the Digital Deal leads coming through should be the ones that get prioritized first. So if you're walking in the morning and you're a BDC agent, you should be able to easily identify the Digital Deal leads that have come in and make sure that you're attacking those right away. Because again, those are your lowest funnel, highest intent buyers. And I would say that applies to all of the dealers' leads, right? Understanding the shoppers that are going through digital retail channels is extremely beneficial for them, because we all know the time it takes for you to address that customer is extremely important. And the faster you can do it, the better off you are, because you're then pulling that consumer, hopefully, out of a shopping phase and getting them into some sort of sales process with you.
Absolutely. I think that once dealers realize that the more you give what the consumer needs, which is, can I afford this car? What's my payments? What's my down? Once they start getting into something other than price, if the dealer's making it easy, if it's transparent, you have more hook, to keep them engaged with the dealership, instead of, hey, here's the price and come in and I may be able to get you a discount. One of the other issues we're having with digital retailing and just trades is that a lot of deals are upside down because of MSRP and MSRP plus pricing. 2 years later, things are upside down. Auction prices are still very high, and dealers are looking for ways to re-accelerate. I think that getting more consumers involved with a digital retailing experience is one of those solutions, because again, you can't control market pricing, but you surely can make it more helpful. And we can moan and complain about the market, interest rates, but in the context of, hey, this is the area in which we live and interest rates have been more than twice as high as they are today, I think dealers have to stop worrying about things they can't control and focus on the customer experience. And I'm seeing more and more people talk about that. Focus on the customer experience. Focus on the customer experience. You can't control what happened. What would you say to that statement, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the difference between telling people what your experience is and actually providing that experience. We, as an industry, and I would put myself in this category too. Back when I was inside the store, we'd love to talk about what our experience is or what we think the experience is. And I don't know that that is really the actual experience of the consumer. And so I think it's aligning your team around a vision and really holding everyone accountable to that. It's like from the person cleaning the bathroom to the general manager running the store and everyone in between, aligning them around the vision that the actual experience the customers are having is paramount to almost everything else. And really, getting that right, because the dealers that I see as most successful, most profitable, highest CSI are the ones who aren't talking about it, but they're being it, right? And they're actually executing on the experience for the consumer over anything else.
Love it. Love it. Well, I think that in this marketplace, dealers should understand that because of challenges still in inventory levels, consumers are still disappointed when they go to dealers' websites because they're not finding exactly what they want. And going to marketplace websites make more sense than ever. These last 3 years have been really a boom for marketplaces because of the lack of inventory. Consumers have had to buy from dealers that aren't local. They've had to ship cars to their home or destination. This is where the marketplace really is outstanding, connecting buyers and sellers. Lindsay, if you had one thing to leave dealers as you survey what's going on inside Cargurus, products that are coming down the pipeline, what would you say to them that would help reinforce their view of Cargurus as a true partner with dealers?
Absolutely. So there are so many initiatives that we have going on right now across our teams to really work hand in hand with dealers and get on the ground level with them and to experience what they're experiencing firsthand. I think the thing that I would, and I have been working with many dealers on this, is supporting how they blend their sales goals against working with consumers physically inside their dealership, but also remotely, because to your point, more and more shoppers are out of dealer market, right? Because they're finding the car they need and want at the right price. And that might mean that that dealership is 400 to 500 miles away or more. And right now, what I see most is that dealers are still, working with the like appointment first sort of attitude, which I think is still extremely important. And I am absolutely not discounting the need to drive appointments in, because really an appointment in your dealership showroom is just as valuable, right? Like they're equal to me to a digital retailing lead that you're getting online. Those are the same, right? We just think about them a little differently. And so it's blending that in-person experience, right, for those consumers that you can drive into your showroom, but also catering to the ones that won't come in, whether it's because they physically can't, they're too far away, or the consumer that just doesn't want to show up yet because they need more from that dealer. And so building process around catering to both of those types of consumers is probably one of the things that I think we can help with in a pretty big way. And then also the technology that gets you there, right? So Digital Deal is giving you more reach and the ability to work faster with a consumer who's outside of your market. And so I would just, encourage people to continue thinking about that and figuring out, how they can alter process or other elements that affect how that works. And then also, talking to us, we, of course, we proactively work with our dealers all the time, but if there's something specific piece of data that would be helpful, right, reach out, because right now we are so willing to work with dealers on that level.
Well, that's great to hear, Lindsay. And I think it's a time really for dealers to look at their process, focus on the customer experience. In fact, this November, the Modern Retailing Conference in Palm Beach, November 12, 13, 14, will be laser focused on ways in which to improve the customer experience through process, through training, through technology, through brand messaging. So it fits perfectly into the discussion, I think, that's building as dealers are trying to differentiate themselves in a very challenging economic market after a few years of very easy money. So I'm glad that Cargurus is thinking continually on how to add value to the existing customer relationships and to win more dealer business and trust as the platform evolves. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time, you should know that there are dozens of interviews with industry leaders and innovators on my podcast channels. Just go to brianpash.libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com, or just search for the Brian Pash Podcast on the Google Play Store or SoundCloud or the Apple Podcast channel. And keep in mind that we are always evolving as an industry. So be a student of automotive retail. Come out to the Modern Retailing Conference in November. You can go to modernretailingconference.com to get your tickets, to look at the schedule. We have an amazing lineup of educators, speakers, and dealers who are just taking their business to the next level. So we invite all of you to be a part of that wonderful conference. Lindsay, if a dealer heard something on today's podcast, wanted to reach out to you directly, what's the best way for them to reach out? Is it LinkedIn? Is it email? What would you say?
LinkedIn is great. Email also great. It's lciavattone@cargurus.com. So just my first initial and last name. And I would be remiss if I didn't make a little plug myself, Brian, which is, one of the easiest and quickest ways, you could increase that consumer satisfaction and improve the consumer experience online, leveraging the Cargurus marketplace, is by enabling Digital Deal. So the NPS of consumers coming through Digital Deal right now is more than twice that of our traditional Cargurus form lead. And I think that's really indicative of how consumers view that experience. And so that's just one little way that you could, take that on. If you haven't adopted Digital Deal yet, I would certainly encourage you to talk to us about it and reach out to me directly. Absolutely. I love having conversations with dealers. It's all I do, and I love doing it. So please reach out.
Lindsay, and that's important. The NPS, or the Net Promoter Score, is the benchmark on how corporate America measures change. It's how OEMs measure change management, because the Net Promoter Score is designed to really get to the heart of the customer experience and getting that information out of them. So having twice as high Net Promoter Score is significant. Please do not miss that point. Talk to your Cargurus local representative, or reach out to Lindsay to talk about the Digital Deal. Well, Lindsay, thank you for being on the show. I want to thank all our listeners. Don't forget to listen to other podcast interviews. They're all online, great from when you're driving to work. Invest in education, invest in yourselves, and I'll catch you next time on another podcast interview.